Hey guys, it's MonadoBoy83 here, and today we're going to be talking about Super Mario Bros. 3, one of my favorite childhood games. First, let me take you back to the long past time of either 2005 or 2006. I can't really remember which, but in both years Bionicle was alive and kicking, so that's all that really matters. Anyway, during that time, I used to go over to my cousin's house a lot, and he had a Game Boy Advance SP, and whenever I'd go over there, I'd watch him play it and pester him until he let me play it. He had this Spider-Man game, Chronicles of Narnia, and then Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, which is a roundabout way of saying it's another port for Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, I loved this game. It was easily my favorite of the games that he had. It was this whole little adventure that you had in this tiny little console, and it just blew my mind that you could do that. I loved playing it, I loved watching him playing it, but I never got to really play it myself a whole lot. And by the time that I did own the game, I wasn't really super interested in beating it all the way through. Until now. I'm going to be finishing the game for the first time in my entire life and telling you what I think about it, and boy, do I think differently about it now. Alright, a little bit of history before we get into it. Super Mario Bros. 3 was released for the Nintendo Entertainment System on February 12, 1990 here in the States, to universal acclaim. The game is widely considered one of the best games of all time and still contends for the title to this day. That's pretty crazy. Since then, the game's been ported to most Nintendo consoles, and if you want to get your hands on it, it's pretty easy to do so. I'm going to be talking about the Game Boy Advance version, which really just upgrades the graphics, because that's the one I played the most as a kid. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, Mario 3 starts you off in this nice little land called Grassland. It's essentially the tutorial world, and it shows you how the game's going to play. And even though it's really easy, I love this world, because it's just so fun. You get this new power-up, well, not new anymore, but new at the time, called the Super Leaf, which lets you become Raccoon Mario and fly. As a kid, I absolutely loved flying up to the top of the level and finding little secret areas. It was so cool, and I still feel that way today. Every level here is nice and fun, and it has cool little secrets in it. You can get these whistles in level 3 by ducking on this white platform at the end for a little while long, and I never even would have imagined as a kid to try this out. It's really neat, and I'm really happy that the game developers put it in there. We also get to see the story for this game here. It's not much, but it's something. Basically, Bowser's kids turned these kings into animals, and you gotta turn them back by getting their magic wands. It's not much, but hey, it's a Mario story. What do you expect? Next up, we have the Sand World, and this is kind of where the game falls apart for me. The levels here are fine, but nothing was really bringing me joy like World 1 did. I mean, the levels are designed alright, it just wasn't very enjoyable to go through. I wasn't like, wow, that's super cool, or man, I want to play that level again, and that was just kind of weird. One of the odd things about the desert land, as they call it in the game, is there's this sandstorm tile on the map that makes you play a level where you have to jump over a tornado that never appears in the game ever again. Not quite sure why that's in there, but I guess it's okay. You also have to dodge an angry sun there, which they put into Super Mario Maker 2. I don't know how I feel about that because the sun caused me so much anger, but it's Mario Maker 2, so I'm sure people are going to make some insane levels with it, so I guess that's okay. Just like the Desert World, this segment's kind of dry, but that's because I just don't have a lot to say about this world. It's just kind of eh. Now here's where I really start to get frustrated with the game, because next up is Waterland, home to my favorite type of platforming level, water levels. Water levels are trash, and Nintendo knew this, so they made this power-up called the Frog Suit, which lets you swim better in water. Unfortunately, they don't really give you a whole lot of opportunities to use it, and it kind of sucks on land because it replaces your sprint with a hop. It does give you a higher jump, but I would rather have a dash than a higher jump. The levels here are just kind of annoying and eh. I didn't really like any of them. It's not horrible because there aren't a ton of dedicated water levels, but water-themed levels are just kind of bad, except in Super Mario Galaxy and that one world where you can surf. That's pretty cool. World 4 is Giant Land, and it's just a giant disappointment. You start off and you get into the first level, and everything's really big and it's really cool because you haven't really seen anything like that before. But once you're done with that, the magic of it wears off and then the rest of the levels are just kind of boring. They don't do anything cool with the giant mechanic to warrant it being there in the first place, aside from the initial, oh that's cool, everything's big factor of the first level. I wish they had done some kind of like giant underground maze level where you had to solve a puzzle with everything being big. That would have been cool, but they didn't do that. Once again, the content here is like, okay, there's just nothing that's really fun or interesting aside from the first level. The next world is Sky World, and I like the concept, I just didn't really like any of the levels at all. You start off on ground, you go through a couple not really memorable levels, and then you get to this spiral mountain thing. And as you go into the level, you start climbing up. And it's really cool because as you're climbing up, you're thinking, why am I going up? And when you're done with it, and the level's like not that great, but the concept is cool, you get to the sky. You're on the Sky Island, which is really neat. And then the sky levels are just kind of nothing. I wish they had some level where you're just jumping through the clouds, platforming around, collecting coins, but they had nothing like that. It's just, here's 30 enemies and have fun with them. The only really interesting level here was one where you had to ride on these enemies' backs, and that was kind of cool, but it was just an enemy fest, like everything else. You also get the Tanuki suit here, which is basically just an upgrade from Raccoon Mario. You get a full suit, and you get to turn into a statue. I didn't really use that mechanic much, but hey, I get to be a furry now, so I guess that's something. I would have loved to see some kind of level where you're jumping through the clouds and just having a good time, or platforming all over this like wide and tall map. But instead you get levels where Lakitu's throwing heat-seeking shells at you for the entire duration of the level, and that's just not that fun. Now we have ice levels, which is pretty cool. Get it? Ice. Cool. I see you didn't like my ice pun. Guys, that is so stupid. Seriously though, Iceland is just ice levels just make the ground slippery, and when it wasn't, you just had to deal with these little enemies that kept throwing blocks at you, which was just annoying. Again, nothing here was really fun or interesting except for this one puzzle level where you had to jump up to the specific point with a turtle shell, which would have been sort of cool if you didn't have to kill all these enemies, and the way that the enemies respawn made it so even if you killed them, it didn't really matter, and the level just kind of made me frustrated instead of being cool, so don't really have anything to say about Iceland. It's ice. World 7 is evidently called Pipeland. I never would have guessed that. I'm just used to the overabundance of enemies by now as level design, so all the piranha plants didn't faze me at all. This world's kind of cool because it gives you access to all the new power-ups, including the Hammer Brothers suit, which lets you throw hammers, and that's really cool. But the levels just suck. They're just enemy-filled. Level design is completely replaced with just throwing a bunch of enemies at you, and it's annoying. And there's this stupid water level where you have to go through this like little segment of jellyfish that like their hitboxes just change every second, and they can kill you when you're not even touching them. It's so just beyond stupid. Everything is just an enemy swarm, and it takes all of the fun out of platforming. The worst part about World 7, hands down, is this one level where you get to the end and there are these two little pink flower things. Now, this was an enemy swarm, and it was annoying to get past, but I finally got there. And up until this point, the pink flower things only jumped when you got near them, so I assumed that they would do the same. I did not know that they were going to shoot fire at me and kill me, which caused me to get very, very angry. I don't understand why they did this, but it just made me mad, and the whole world made me mad, so yeah, World 7's not good. Now, we're finally at World 8, the hardest world in the game. I hate it. I hate every single thing about it. I despise it. It's not fun. I loathed playing through it, and the only thing I felt upon completing it was a rush of relief because I never had to play it ever again. It is so not fun. All of the extra worlds had tons of power-ups and extra lives for you if you needed them. There were these things called toad houses which you could go in and get a random item that you could use before you got into a stage. And there was this mini game where you had to match up 3 segments of a power-up, and you get lives corresponding to whatever you matched up. None of that is here. You have to suffer through all of these levels with one hit, and if you're lucky enough, you may find a mushroom along the way, but you're not gonna keep it. It's so stupid. All the levels here just suck. And weirdly enough, there are only 2 numbered levels in this world. The first one puts you in a jungle for some reason, and just has you dodge a bunch of enemies like normal, except there are less cannonballs here. And then the second level, you're in the desert at night, and the sun is back and chasing after you. I don't quite understand why that's there, except to make me frustrated and not want to play the game anymore. After all of this, you finally get to the second to last level in the game, the final tank level. This level took me 20 minutes to complete, I'm not going to lie, and it was terrible. It's basically the equivalent of a Mario Maker level. Now, if you don't know what Mario Maker is, it's a game where you get to make Mario levels. And most of the people online like to make these levels where they just throw a ton of enemies at you and let you have fun. And that's kind of what they did here. It was not good. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have fun dodging all the enemies or getting past them. I was just annoyed the entire time. And after all of that, you get to Bowser's Castle and it's just weird. So you get in there and you start running and you of course get killed by these lasers that come out of Bowser statues because, you know, why wouldn't that happen? But the level's just odd. You go through all of this hardship and trials and you get here and you really just have to dodge some fire. You have to dodge fire in a narrow corridor, then dodge fire on these platforms that fall away after you stand on them for like 2 seconds, and then dodge fire on these small platforms that don't fall, but the fire's coming at you differently. And then you finally get to Bowser. The Bowser fight is pathetic. You just have to have him jump on the ground in the same spot 3 times, and then he'll fall through the floor. The Bowser fight itself was not that hard. It only took me like 3 tries as opposed to the rest of the level, which took me a little bit longer because some of that fire gets really hard to dodge at times. But the fight is a joke. If you're small without a power-up, the fire can't really hit you, so you just have to stand in the same place, and when he jumps, get out of the way, and then he kills himself and you win. And here's the really frustrating part. So you beat Bowser. And you get Princess Peach, and she says one sentence of just thanks, thank you, really cool. I did all of this. I tortured myself playing through this world, and all I get is a sentence. I did all of this for one sentence. One sentence. That's it. I didn't get any, like, extra fun final level. I would have absolutely loved if there was one final level in the game where you went from Bowser's Castle to Grassland, and you go through a little segment of each and every single world and just collect a bunch of coins. It would be so cool, but they don't do that, and it just makes me mad. Why did I beat this game? I guess out of all of this, I've learned one thing. I suck at Mario. You know what? That's okay. I enjoyed playing through World 1, and I've always enjoyed playing through World 1. Whenever I pick up this game again, I just play through that world and then close it. It's what I like to do, and I love that part about the game. There's a lot of challenge here if you're looking for it, but if you just want a fun little thing, there's always World 1 available to you, and that's what I personally just like to play. A game does not have to be easy for me to have fun with it. I love Dark Souls, and that game made me super angry a lot of the time. But when I beat a boss, most of the time I felt really good because I finally overcame the challenge, and I never really got that feeling here. I really wish they had just put that one final level in the game, where you got to see through everything you've been through, and just have a fun time with it, but they didn't do that. I can't really rate this game because I'm still mad at some of the levels, but I can assure you that if you just play through World 1, you will have a fun time. Alright, that's enough out of me. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. I'm going to try uploading every week and bringing some new fun content to the table, so if you're ready to watch some of that, tune in next week. We'll see what happens.